Welcome to the Everything Podcast, and in this episode I'm going to be recapping the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 15, The Ministry of Death, which was released at the beginning of March 2026. But before I get into this episode, I'm recording this episode on Saturday the 4th of April 2026, and this is the first in a selection of episodes that I will be recording for the second time, because, as mentioned in previous episodes, my phone broke, and I thought that when I got my laptop back, which this is the first episode that my laptop's been repaired before this point, so I've got it back and it's all sorted, so makes recording episodes a lot easier. But yeah, kind of it is meant that I kind of hoped that when I got my laptop back I'd be able to recover them, but I can't, so I'm going to have to re-record them, as well as some new episodes as well. So yeah, no problems about me running out of things to talk about. So, yeah, as I said, we're going to focus on the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 15, The Ministry of Death, which obviously is a Big Finish release. So, as with most of my Big Finish recaps, I'm going to read what we know, then I'm going to show the trailer, and then I'll let you know my thoughts on the story. So, here's the synopsis for the box set. Summoned back to Earth by the space-time telegraph, the Doctor and Sarah Jane found themselves assisting their old friends at uni. Not once but twice, but exactly how willing will a Time Lord be to be stuck in a single place once more? We start off with the title story, The Ministry of Death, written by Robert Valentine, which is the 4-episode story of the set. When the Brigadier uses the space-time telegraph to summon the Doctor and Sarah Jane from their travels, they'll know it'll be for something unusual, but neither could expect something quite this strange. An electronics expert has died after being struck by lightning. How could this possibly happen in his office? And that's only the first death they discover. A wild scheme is underway, a case of twisted science and revenge that's about to hit closer to home than they can possibly anticipate. We also have The Inhuman Empire, written by Phil Mulryne, which is the 2-episode story of the set. Sarah is contacted by an old friend who knows her predilection for Rum's goings-on, asking her to investigate unusual activities at the National Museum. Sarah agrees to look into it, with the Doctor tagging along, but they soon discover things are worse than they thought, because the museum is host to alien activity, very familiar aliens at that, and if they don't stop these relic hunters quickly, then humanity itself may not survive. I should have also mentioned, as that's the synopsis for the set and each of the stories, I've got a bit of a cold. I was away last weekend in a campsite in a tent, and it was quite cold, so I think that's why I'm ill. So yes, just so you're not worrying, that is the case. I am not feeling 100%, because I was actually going to record this episode and a couple of episodes a couple of days ago, but I wasn't well enough to do so. I literally laid in bed all day. This set was recorded on the 23rd, the 27th of October, the 3rd, 10th, 16th and 30th of November, and the 14th of December 2020. We now have some quotes from the cast and crew. So producer David Richardson said, "Now this is my era. I was 12 years old when the 4th Doctor, Sarah Jane and Harry were flying out into the universe, and those years remain some of my most treasured Doctor Who memories. How brilliant that at last, 15 seasons into the 4th Doctor adventure, we can bring those characters back together again for new stories. This season has been sitting in the can for a while now. We made it at the height of lockdown, and it proves the most joyous diversion from bleak times, imaginative, brilliant escapism, just what Doctor Who should be." The Ministry of Death writer Robert Valentine added, "There is a certain magic to these lead characters of the 4th Doctor, Sarah, Harry and the Brig. The 4th Doctor is a far less culpable personality than the 3rd Doctor was, and he's this chaotic force who wants to leave, and the Brig is a force of order who wants him to stay, and stuck between them are Sarah and Harry, who are a very different couple of characters, who nevertheless get on extremely well. But Harry is a throwback to an earlier time, not unlike John Steed in the Avengers, and Sarah is a thoroughly contemporary woman who's bang up to date for the 1970s, or is it the 1980s? Actor Christopher Naylor described the Ministry of Death as a real adventure, serial feel to it. It moves at a good pace, and it's very reminiscent of those early stories in Tom's tenure, like Robot. You can imagine those very brightly lit sets and the jeeps zooming all over the place, and lots of colour separation overlay of actors and creatures getting bigger." Sorry about that. I was hoping, I tried to pause it so you wouldn't hear me sneeze everywhere, but unfortunately I don't think I hit the button quite right, so apologies. Sadie Miller, who plays Sarah Jane Smith, agreed it's a really fun adventure. It reminds me of Roger Corman movies, that sort of creature feature element which I absolutely adore, and a gothic, spooky element to the sci-fi, with a mad scientist character, which I've always really enjoyed as a viewer and as a listener. We now have the cast for the set, which includes Tom Baker as the Fourth Doctor, Sadie Miller as Sarah Jane Smith, Christopher Naylor as Harry Sullivan, and John Cornshaw as Brigadier Lethbridge. That's kind of the main cast. There is a few more characters, but I'm just going to focus on the main cast. And the directors for this set were Jamie Anderson and Ken Bentley. The senior producer was John Ainsworth. The cover art was done by Sean Longmore. The executive producers were Jason Haigh-Ellery and Nicholas Briggs. The music was done by Jamie Robertson. The producer was David Richardson. The script editor was John Dorney. And this set is 213 minutes. So before I spoil the events of the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 15A, The Ministry of Death, here's the trailer.
I wonder what the Brigadier wants this time.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The Fourth Doctor Adventures, The Ministry of Death.
Doctor, thank you for coming at such short notice.
Well, your space-time telegram said it was urgent.
Who are you? What do you want?
We have a bizarre, unexplained death on our hands.
Well, that's the peculiar part, Doctor. He was struck by lightning.
It happened in his office.
There's a twisted intellect behind this, Brigadier.
Leave me alone! Go away!
3 people have died in ways appropriate to their area of expertise. Driving, electronics, and now computing.
The battle has commenced.
You are meddling with a technology you don't understand.
I represent the National Museum.
I'm on strike, Harry.
I say, these artifacts will stun the world.
The obelisks, good lord, they're huge!
When this exhibition opens, the nation's great and good will flock to it.
Oh, these orbs carved on top of each obelisk. You've seen them, Syria monolith, luggage.
What does that mean?
Gifts from the gods that came to the land.
What are we dealing with?
Their empire will rise.
We're talking about an alien invasion.
They're controlling you, Bavis.
It will rise.
Big Finish for the love of stories.
That was the trailer for the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 15A, The Ministry of Death. So we'll start off with talking about The Ministry of Death itself, which, as I mentioned earlier, was written by Robert Valentine. This story obviously reintroduces the Fourth Doctor, Sarah Jane, Harry, and the Brigadier, who I've come across in various Big Finish audios, just not together as that 4. The closest we had to it was 2024's The Curse of Time, released in December 2024, which saw the Fourth Doctor, Sarah Jane and Harry together, but not with the Brigadier. So that was kind of the closest we got to this. We've also had Sarah Jane and Harry together in loads of sets, including including their own series, Smith and Sullivan, which seems to be a one and done series, seemingly, for some reason. So we have seen. So it was kind of nice for me to be familiar with all the characters and see how they were together and kind of the views that each of them have and stuff. So that was really nice. But my favourite story of the set was the other story, with the shorter one, The Inhuman Empire, written by Paul Ryan, with us not knowing who the villains are, but we knowing that they're familiar to the Doctor. And so it was like, who's it going to be? And it turns out to be the Autons, who obviously I'm familiar with from the first ever episode of Modern Doctor Who. That being Rose, starring Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper, reintroduces the Autons for classic fans, or for me, introduces them. So I was aware of who they were. I don't think I'd heard an audio story with them though, so that was very interesting and a nice surprise. So yeah, that was nice. The kind of isn't, because it's been when I first recorded this episode, it was probably a lot clearer in my head, but it's been like a month since I've listened to this release, so it's quite hard for me to remember, so apologies. But let's move on to a the next Fourth Doctor Adventures set, that being the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 15B Lethal Progress, which will release in June 2026, which if you're listening on audio, it could have released by the time you're listening to this episode. But here's the synopsis. The Doctor takes the TARDIS into the future where many great scientific leaps are taking place, but every new advance has its risks, and some of these risks are deadlier than others. We start off with Green and Pleasant Planet, written by Tim Foley. The Doctor and Sarah find themselves exploring an alien world alongside a British space expedition. It's never been visited before, so what's a model village doing on the surface of the planet? Finding the answer may prove deadly. We then have The Continuum, written by John Dorney. The Doctor and Sarah land on the space station Deludilius on the day it makes history. The first journey through hyperspace has just been completed, but it hasn't gone as smoothly as posterity suggests. Something terrible is happening, and the clock is ticking down. We finish off the set with The Audience, written by Lizzie Hopley. A cultural festival in Kokora should be light relief for the TARDIS crew, but when one of the cast of a play dies, Sarah has to join the troupe, and the audience on this world are very demanding because on this planet, the plays The Thing, this set was recorded on the 19th of April, 17th of May, and 14th of June 2021. We have some quotes from the crew. Producer David Richardson said, "The Doctor and Sarah Jane head out among the stars, and they're indomitable. After the cozily earthbound Ministry of Death, the travellers visit other worlds and other times in lethal progress, which, as the title may suggest, finds that scientific advancement doesn't always benefit the human race. Expect 3 imaginative and thrilling adventures from the minds of the brilliant Tim Foley, John Dorney, and Lizzie Hopley." Writer John Dorney explained his episode, "I came to this story wanting to write something with a bit of horror, but in a science fiction way. I was looking at different fictions for inspiration, like The Great Godpan and Event Horizon. Then I began to think about doing the whole thing as a one long continuous scene. We'd had a few single-take films like that in recent years, and I was curious to see what that would bring to a Doctor Who story." And the third episode's writer, Lizzie Hopley, said, "Everyone says write what you know, so with this story, as I started off as an actress, I wanted to write something about that process in an alien environment. I had some nightmare audiences. This is basically a nightmare. I had to tone down the horror." This set stars Tom Baker as the Fourth Doctor and Sadie Miller as Sarah Jane Smith. To know Harry, played by Christopher Naylor, or Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, played by John Coleshaw in this set either. So, yeah, and the director for the set was Helen Goldwyn. The script editors were John Dorney and Roland Moore. The writers, as I mentioned previously, were Tim Foley, John Dorney, and Lizzie Hopley. The senior producer was John Ainsworth. The executive producers were Jason Hay Gallery and Nicholas Briggs. The music was done by James Robertson. The producer was David Richardson. The sound design was also done by Jamie Robertson. And this set is 180 minutes. That's all we know about the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 15B, Lethal Progress. So as of time of recording, there is no cover or a trailer, so I can't show you any of those. But without further ado, let me know what we thought of the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 15A, The Ministry of Death, if you listen to it. As well, if you're looking forward to Series 15B, Lethal Progress, when it releases in June 2026. Let me know all of those in the comments below. And without further ado, I will see you in a future episode of the podcast. See you then. Goodbye.